Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's event. We're going to get together today and really talk about some important ideas that you can use in your business right now. Our guest speaker, Gibran, is going to bring some incredible advice that really I think many of you who have heard from us before in the community as mortgage professionals know that whenever you tune into a conversation with us, you're going to get something of value that, again, you can use right away when you hang up the phone or sign off the meeting. My name is Joe Pator. I'm the president of Mortgage Coach. I've enjoyed building technology for originators for more than a decade. If you haven't had a chance to see what it is that we do here at Mortgage Coach and really some of the tools and the education that we provide in addition to free events like this today, visit our website, mortgagecoach.com. Again, mortgagecoach.com, and go ahead and click anywhere you see the Learn Now and Learn More buttons, and you'll be able to sign up for a free personal tour. So a success coach here, somebody who's been a mortgage professional themselves, will walk you through a few of our solutions, which certainly will include the Mortgage Coach TCA, an interactive report that you deliver to consumers, partners, and realtors to help them better understand the advice that you're providing, because after all, the mortgage can have such an impact to someone's bottom line and, of course, their quality of life. And certainly we also provide Rate Watch, which Gibran certainly will refer to, and how to use this information and market data to impact your relationship with realtors. So again, we're here to provide today's event, again, to the industry at large, and we welcome having you here and certainly hope you take the opportunity to talk to us in the near future. With that said, we're really pleased to have Gibran join us for today's event to really speak about the gathering of relationships and engaging with people and really getting a better understanding of how to motivate your network. Gibran and I have a long history of working together both here at Mortgage Coach, CMPS Institute, which of course he founded, and many other initiatives that have really helped the industry as a whole. And I think today more than ever, we could use the insight that Gibran has to really motivate our network to focus on business more than just the refi boom, but of course the longevity of our practice. So Gibran, if you just share, spend the time with the hundreds of folks gathered right now and provide that perspective, we'd really be appreciated of the event.
Well, thanks, Joe. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and thank you, everyone, for taking the time to share with us this morning or this afternoon, depending on your time zone. And we'll certainly make it very worthwhile for you and appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this, Joe.
Great, Gibran. Thanks again so much, and we look forward to what you're going to share.
Okay, great. So the content we're going to talk about today really stems from conversations that I've had with top producers in the mortgage, real estate, and financial planning industries. And after today's webinar, we're going to make these interviews available to you at no cost at all. We're going to just give you a link to those interviews so you can see for yourself. But what I've done is I've taken the highlights of those interviews, so you don't have to listen to the whole interview. I'm just giving you the highlights today because a lot of us are in the same boat. We're struggling with time management. It's hard to get so much done in a day right now. There's so much going on in our industry, and there's so much volume that we're closing. Everyone has had record months. July, August, and September are gearing up to be, a record 3-month run here for a lot of us here in the mortgage industry. And so time management is certainly a great concern that a lot of people have. And of course, juggling all sorts of responsibilities and finding life balance. How do we find work-life balance in this type of environment is something that I asked a lot of these top producers that I'm going to introduce to you here in a few minutes. And then leading a team. We're all struggling with building a team, hiring assistants, training assistants, making sure that our team is operating at the highest possible levels. And so one of the things that these top producers all have in common is the fact that they've all built a team over the years. And so we're going to talk about highlights, from their team building efforts and what they've done successfully and what we can learn from. And then how do we avoid the confusion of what to do next? I mean, a lot of times when we find ourselves overwhelmed, in business or life, it's hard to create a clear way forward. We don't know what to do next, tomorrow, the next day, maybe even today. What do we do after today's call right now to start implementing some of the concepts and strategies we're going to be talking about today? How do we unconfuse ourselves is something that we're going to be focused on as well. And how to get off the road to nowhere in our relationships. A lot of times when we have strategic partner relationships with realtors, with financial advisors, we find ourselves on the road to nowhere where we are stuck. And how do we get off of that road and find success, or a higher level of success in some of our strategic partnerships is another big takeaway that you're going to walk away with today, because this is something that all these top producers that I'm going to introduce to you here, they've all built their business on strategic relationships. So the question is how? How did they do it? What are they doing right now? Because, I mean, although I'm a pretty smart guy, I know that you'd rather hear from the top producers that are out there in the trenches. You know, Ken Deleon is one of the people that I'm going to introduce to you right now. Ken has closed $275 million in real estate volume, residential closings in 2011. And so what can we learn from a guy like Ken? You know, Ken has not only closed a tremendous amount of volume, but he's also discovered some great secrets of success when it comes down to life balance, because of the fact that he has 4 children. So how do you spend time with your 4 children and close $275 million in sales? That's a question that we asked Ken. And one of the things that he said to us is, you know, he was able to learn from going through cancer in his life. That was one of the big things that caused him to learn more about time management, because he said, Gibran, this is what happened. I went through cancer and I decided that, gosh, my time on this earth is very valuable. I'm not going to live forever. And so I want to spend my time doing the things that matter the most and spending it with the people that matter the most. And so I decided to fire all of my clients that I didn't want to work with anymore. I just called them up and said, listen, I'm sorry, I have cancer, I can't service you. And in that one action, that one experience, I was able to free up so much time that I was able to take that time and leverage it into performing relationships that helped to catapult my business to become the #1 real estate agent in the country. So, I mean, he went from being, you know, losing all of his hair and going through cancer and being in all sorts of pain and discomfort and being on the verge of death. And he finally learned the lessons that a top producer needs to learn in order to achieve high levels of performance in business and life. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today as well. And of course, we also interviewed Diane Clark, who is one of the top originators in the country. Now, it's relatively simple. I mean, it's not overly complicated to be successful in an environment where you've got 3% interest rates. I mean, what is everybody doing right now? They're refinancing. So the volume levels are extraordinarily high. But Diane's business is over 80% purchase volume. And she closes about $120 million a year, 80% of which is purchase volume. And so how does somebody close $100 million a year in purchase volume that is going to be there regardless of what interest rates are doing? That's something that we discovered from Diane, how she does it and how she builds her team. And what does it take to operate at such a high level? How do you close $100 million in purchase volume? What kind of team do you need to be able to do that? And then we talked to Deleon, who is one of the top financial planners in the country. He's, you know, manages about $430 million in assets. And he has established strategic partnerships with the automotive companies, and he does a lot of retirement planning seminars, and that's how he builds his clientele. And the impressive thing about Deleon, you know, quite honestly, is not necessarily all his volume that he does, but the fact that he has a really unique twist on life balance. He said, Gibran, you know, I spend 120 days working really hard. I spend 120 days out of the year playing really hard. I mean, the guy just got back from a 2-week safari in Africa. I mean, how does somebody have time to go to Africa for 2 weeks in the middle of one of the highest volume eras in our time? And then he talked to me about, you know, he spends the other 120 days where he, you know, he splits his time between work and play. And so that's something that, you know, he was able to do. He said it's almost like a built-in retirement plan for trusted advisors. if you can build a team, and Leon manages a team of about 10 people, he said, if you can build a team and delegate responsibilities of different parts of your process to the various members of your team, then you can build a retirement plan, kind of like the one I have, where I work for a third of the year, I play for a third of the year, and then I've got a third of the year as extra days to do whatever it is that I want to do. And we're going to talk about how he does that as well. So these are the three professionals. The source of the information that I'm giving you today is not just something I made up myself. I've done a lot of research. I've talked to a lot of top producers. In fact, I talked to one top producer that, actually quite a few that did not qualify basically to give advice to all of you today. I mean, one guy I talked to does actually close to $200 million in volume on an annual basis, but he works 16 hours a day. And I mean, you guys can probably do that by working 16 or 18 hours a day, not spending any time with your family. That's not the kind of result we want. So I went out there and I interviewed a lot of top producers, people like this one guy that does $200 million a year but doesn't spend any time with his family, to people like this, Ken and Diane and Leon, who all are high-volume producers that have a unique twist on work-life balance. And I said to myself, boy, what can we learn from these individuals? And I wanted to find people that no one's heard of before. Because we've all gone to the same events. We all hear the same speakers speak over and over and over again. We know what they're going to say before they even say it because we've heard them say it before. But what about these guys? I mean, these are people that we've never heard of before. What can we learn from them? That's what I wanted to find out. I wanted to talk to people I'd never heard of before and discover the secrets of their success and share it with all of you here today. And so that's what I did. I understand where you're coming from, the challenges of today's environment, but I also understand that there are people out there today who are dealing with these challenges in a way that really helps to catapult their level of success, not only in business but also in life, and that's what we're focused on today. So the three secrets that these people told me that they all have in common, Ken and Diane and Leon, they all have a unique way of handling these three areas of their business and of their life. The first is life balance. They all have a unique way of looking at life balance and work-life balance. The second area, the second secret, is team building. They all have a tremendous team that they've built, and they were able to share with you exactly what every member of their team does and how they do it. And then they all have a unique way of handling collaborative relationships. They all built their business on relationships. In fact, Ken, I mean, you'd think that a guy who does $275 million in real estate closings would have his own in-house mortgage company, but he doesn't. And so I asked him, why doesn't he have his own in-house mortgage company, and what causes him to want to work with a mortgage professional? I mean, if I'm a mortgage professional and I want to go out and work with a guy like Ken, I mean, that's a big objection that we're hearing from a lot of mortgage people today. They say, well, all the realtors in my market have their own in-house mortgage companies. They all have MSAs. The only way these originators build their volume is through MSAs. Well, I'm here to tell you that you don't have to have an MSA to be successful in today's environment. You find a guy like Ken that's doing a high level of volume that doesn't have his own in-house mortgage company, and you learn what is important to him, and you meet his needs. And so I'm going to tell you what he wants in a relationship, because I guarantee you the top producers in your market are going to want the same things. And I talked to another top producing realtor. His name is Martin. He's the #1 Keller agent, Keller Williams agent in the Midwest. And I asked him, what he does in his mortgage relationships. And he said, Gibran, I used to have my own in-house mortgage company. But you know what? The guy who worked for the in-house mortgage company didn't even earn the business. He thought that he deserved it. And so he was very complacent in the way that he served me and my clients. And so I decided to shut down the in-house mortgage company and refer my business elsewhere, because my clients could be better served by not having an in-house mortgage company. And so regardless of whether someone that you know in your market has their own in-house company or not, you're going to be able to learn the secrets of these three individuals and what they do to become successful and to remain successful. Because, I mean, we've all become somewhat successful this year. And 2012 was a great year for a lot of us in the mortgage business. If you were to ask yourself, am I successful in this industry, chances are you're probably going to answer yes, as far as this year is concerned. Your volumes are good, your income is good, it's a lot better than you've seen in the past. But the question is, how can you stay that way? How can you remain successful? And that's one of the big lessons I learned. You know, I was recently in Newport, Rhode Island. You say, well, what's in Newport, Rhode Island? I mean, I wondered the same thing myself. I was out there giving a seminar to a group of loan originators who were doing the 8-hour NMLS class, and after the workshop, I decided to go tour the area and saw this, that Newport, Rhode Island is the home to a lot of huge mansions that were built by families like the Vanderbilt family, and J.P. Morgan had a house there, and a lot of people had, you know, huge mansions in Newport, Rhode Island. But the interesting thing that relates to us in the mortgage business right now is that the Vanderbilts were the wealthiest family in the world. In fact, Commodore Vanderbilt, Cornelius Vanderbilt, was the wealthiest man in the world at his time. He was the Warren Buffett of the late 1800s. But within 4 or 5 generations, the wealth in that family had completely gone away. They completely lost all their wealth to the point where one of their great-granddaughters had to sell this huge mansion, you know, to a conservation society for about $400,000. It was, you know, at the time it was built, it was, you know, probably in today's dollars worth around $50 million, and she had to sell it at a loss just to stay afloat. And so one of the things that we can learn from is that we don't only want to become successful, we want to remain successful. And so what are these top producers doing to remain successful year in, year out? Because you remember the last time you had this level of volume, the last time you were this happy and successful, it didn't last too long. I mean, we all experienced the great credit crunch and the, you know, the collapse of the mortgage industry, but what can we do to prepare and to protect ourselves going forward in this industry as mortgage professionals? And that's one of the things that I learned from these individuals. And so let's start talking about each one of these items and what we can learn from each of these items to not only become successful, but to remain successful this year, next year, and so on. And so the first thing we're going to talk about is life balance. What do these top producers, you know, think about life balance? I mean, how do you maintain such a high level of volume and still have time to spend with your family? And I asked each of these people that question. I talked to Diane. She has grandchildren that she spends time with. And I talked to Leon. I mean, Diane's children are grown, but she has grandchildren that she, you know, she's spending time with when she's not working. And of course, she's married. She has a husband that she spends time with. And Leon, I talked to him, and he was telling me about his you know, the way that he approaches life balance, which I shared a little bit earlier. And then Ken told me what he does about life balance. But the common element is that they all focus on the things that are important at that particular time. So when Ken's at work, for example, he said, Jerome, when I'm at work, I focus on work. I don't check my Facebook. I don't check my email. I'm not distracted by all the other goings-on in life. I'm just focused on dealing with the person who's in front of me, dealing with that client. They have 100% of my attention. Dealing with that strategic partner, they have 100% of my attention, and I'm not distracted. And then when I'm at home with my family, with my children, I don't check my BlackBerry. I don't check my email. I'm focused on them. I'm focused on spending my time with them. And so if somebody wants to get a hold of me during work hours, they can get a hold of me during work hours. But then if they want to get a hold of me after that, I'm with my family. I don't take phone calls at home. And so he's focused. He's crystal clear on his focus. And that level of crystal clear focus allows him to operate at such a high level because he's created disciplines in his life. He's created a discipline. When he's at work, he doesn't get distracted. When he's at home, he doesn't get distracted by work. And so these are the things that we can learn from. We can institute daily habits like this, where when we're at home, we stay focused on that. And so the problem a lot of times is that we all know the truth. We all know that because of the fact that we all know that the way we spend our time and energy can only be spent in 2 ways, on activities or relationships. If we spend our time and energy on activities and relationships that don't work, we have less time and energy. I mean, we feel burned out at the end of the day. We feel unproductive. But then if we spend our time and energy on activities and relationships that work, it results in more growth in our life, more growth in our business. It's not rocket science. It's relatively simple. I mean, this advice from Ken, you've probably heard it a million times before. But the question I ask is, why do we make wrong choices? Why is it that we make the choice when we're at home, when we know we shouldn't be checking our work email? Why are we checking our email in the middle of dinner with our family? Why are we checking Facebook in the middle of work, in the middle of a webinar? You're probably multitasking right now. Why is it that we can't stay focused? And a lot of times, the answer all boils down to this. There are 6 universal human needs that we all have as human beings. It's a fact of life. I've studied this. I've studied psychology. I've studied, the habits of highly successful people and the habits of not so successful people. And I've discovered that we all have these universal needs. And these needs, for example, one of the needs is a need for significance. We need to feel like we are significant. And so when we're at home and we are, when our children aren't listening to us, when our spouse isn't listening to us, when they make us feel insignificant, what do? We retreat back into our work because work makes us feel significant. So the reason why a lot of times we don't implement the right habits in our life is because we haven't taken the time to think about what are our human needs and how can we meet these needs in productive, not destructive ways. And so I talked to Ken about this, and he said, Gibran, I had to go through cancer before I figured that out. I had to figure out, boy, I got to get my life in order because I'm not going to live forever. And God forbid that any of us have to go through an experience like that before we get a hold of our life, before we realize that, listen, we have these needs. How can we meet these needs in productive, not destructive ways where we can make an impact in the lives of our family, make an impact in our work, and operate at huge levels of success in both our personal and our business lives. And so that's one of the things that all of these top producers have in common is they all understand life balance and how important it is, and they've instituted habits in their everyday life and their everyday work to maintain a high level of balance. But then it's not just about making the right decision. Sometimes it's also about sticking to that decision. You see, there are 4 sources of energy that we all bring to the table. And this is something that Leon said. He said, Gibran, I'm not so concerned with time management as I am with energy management. He said, energy management is something I've been studying for the past few years a lot. And his philosophy is that time plus energy equals output. So it's not only the amount of time that you spend on it, but the amount of energy that you're spending on it. And there are 4 sources of energy that we can spend on our activities and our relationships. There's emotional energy, there's physical energy, there's mental energy, there's spiritual energy. And a lot of times, the reason why we're not being successful, the reason why we're not maintaining a higher level of performance is because we're only bringing one source of energy to the table. So take an example like, for instance, working out every day. I mean, we can go out, work out, and bring, make a decision that we want to go work out. So we're using mental energy to go work out. We can use physical energy to go work out, but if we don't use emotional energy, for instance, if we stock our house filled with junk food, and we don't make a decision internally that we're gonna have steps in place to limit the amount of food that we take in, not only that we're spending time working out, but that we're limiting the types of food that we actually eat, then we're not using all 4 sources of energy. And it's the same thing, we can make a mental decision to go work out, but unless we build it into our daily schedule every day, then it's not going to translate into reality. So not only do we have to make a decision to meet our needs in productive, not destructive ways, but we also have to leverage all 4 sources of energy to make it a reality in our everyday life. And that's what these top producers taught me, and that's what these top producers all do in their life when they make a decision. How do they stick to it? They leverage all 4 sources of energy to stick to it. So the 3 skills about life balance that we can learn, and these are all learned behaviors, is that we need to learn how to focus and eliminate waste in our daily schedule. We need to learn how to understand our needs and the needs of other people that we relate to in our everyday life. And then we need to understand how to leverage the 4 sources of energy when we make a decision, how do we stick to it by leveraging the 4 sources of energy and tying it to a higher purpose? And so those are the 3 skills that these top producers have learned and that they want to share with you. I'm going to share with you at the end of today's call how you can have one-on-one interaction with these people, because I want to introduce the 2 of you together, because I really think that if you have one-on-one interaction with Ken and with Leon and with Diane, you'll be able to get a better feel for what it is that I'm sharing with you today. So that's the first thing. The second thing is team leadership. So not only do they focus on life balance, but they've all built killer teams. And they have a leadership system in place where I talked to Diane, for example. She has a team of processors and transaction coordinators. And she said, Gibran, you know, the thing that makes my team work is that we all have the same philosophy. That, you know, when I look for a team member, I don't look for, you know, somebody who has experience in the mortgage industry. I look for somebody who will give my clients the same level of passion and care that I give to them. And so when she finds a team member, she searches for character in that person, and then she has systems in place to train them. And so that's the paramount thing on her list when she looks for an assistant is what is this person's character? What is their philosophy in life? Is it aligned with mine? And how does, you know, how can we leverage that person's skills on our team? And so that's what Diane does. And she said, you know, leadership is not just about leading yourself. A lot of people read a bunch of books on leadership and they attend classes on leadership. But if you don't have a team in place and you're just leading yourself, then that's not really going to result in growth, because there's a limit to how much you can handle as a person, as an individual. So leadership is really about leading yourself, and it's about leading others. But then there are other people who think that leading others is really what leadership is about, and they ignore the areas of their own life that need improvement. And so that's why leadership is about both, leading yourself and leading other people as well. And then she said leadership is also about people and systems, where I can have the best people in the world, but if I don't have the right systems in place, the right CRM system, the right checklists in place for my processors and underwriters to follow, the right things for them to do, then it's a waste of talent. Or if I have the best systems in the world, but my people stink, then that's not going to work either. And so leadership is about people and systems, and that's how she built her team, is by the philosophy that it's about leading yourself and leading others, and it's about people and systems, and that's what she has brought to the table in the way that she runs her business. And so the 3 skills that you can learn about leadership that Diane will share with you here is how to examine and evaluate the areas of your business that need improvement, how to develop your people and your systems to get to a higher level, and then how to continuously grow and improve the way that you do business, the way that you relate to your team. You know, she said, you know, building a team and having conversations with your team, you got to use the same skills that you use when you talk to a client, when you talk to a referral partner. You want to find out what their needs are. You know, if they're not operating at a high level, why? What is it about their job that they dislike? And maybe they're in the wrong position on the team. She said, you know, sometimes I have a salesperson in the position of a processor, and I discover, well, that's what the problem is. I got to make that person, you know, go out and make sales so that they're not inundated with all the details. They're the same thing. You can't have a processor in the role of a salesperson. And so that's what she does, how to examine and evaluate your business process, how to develop people and systems, and how to continuously grow and improve. And then the final area is collaborative relationships, because all of these top producers have built their business on collaborative relationships. Leon with corporate clients, Diane with relocation companies and with financial advisors, Ken with other service providers in his market, and they all have had a tremendous amount of success in their strategic partnerships. And so what are the secrets of their success when it comes to strategic partnerships? They all have a common element, and the common element is a 5-step process. Number 1, they're focused on discovering the problem of their strategic partner. So it's not just about asking them for referrals or talking to them about a referral relationship. It's about going deeper and going beyond that and finding out what are the business challenges that this realtor has. What are the business challenges that this financial advisor has? What is their number 1 challenge in life or business? and how can you, help them to overcome that challenge. And then once you discover what that challenge is, the next step is to paint their pain, which is really to build out the problem to the point where they are motivated to do something about it. Because it's not just enough for somebody to acknowledge that they have a problem, right? You have to figure out, boy, if I don't do something about this problem, then I'm going to be in a worse situation in my life, and I don't want that to happen. And so what is the effect of not solving the problem? That's what you have to get them to acknowledge. And once you get them to acknowledge that, then you talk about that. That's what you focus the conversation on. You wonder, well, after you meet with a referral partner, a lot of times there's this thing called the motivation dip, where you might meet with the referral partner, and then they agree that it's in their best interest to work with you. They want to work with you. They say they want to work with you. 5 weeks go by. They don't return your calls. They don't return your emails. And you've just experienced what's called the motivation dip. So how do you avoid that? How do you avoid the motivation dip in your relationships? Well, the number one thing you can do is discover how to solve a problem. What is the problem that they have? But more importantly, how do you get them to the point where they acknowledge that they need to do something about their problem, and that you're the one that can help them solve their problem? That's the second step they do, is these top producers understand how to paint the pain so that the referral partners they're dealing with, the strategic partners they're dealing with, do not experience this thing called a motivation dip. And then the third step they take is, once the referral partner acknowledges their problem, once they build out their problem, they understand the pain that they're going to be in, that inaction is not an option, the next step is to position yourself as the one who can solve the problem. And the best way to do that is to tell an effective story, to use an example of how you were able to help somebody else solve a similar challenge in their life. So for instance, if you're talking to a realtor about the seller buy-down flyer, this would be an example of how you are telling the story of how you were able to help another realtor implement the seller buy-down flyer, and how it was able to generate X amount of leads for that other realtor, and why this realtor ought to consider using that as a strategy for their scenario. So that brings us to step number 4, which is how to create a plan, because this was one of the big ideas in the book called Blue Ocean Strategies, which is one of the best books on business strategy that I've ever read. It said that the person that you're dealing with, that you're creating the strategy with, has to be vested in that strategy. So you can't necessarily project your view of the world on everyone else that you're dealing with. You have to go into their world, find out what their view of the world is, and then collaborate with them to create a plan that they are excited to implement. You got to make it seem like it's their idea to do this plan. And so the best way to do this is to use examples and tell stories, and to help to strategize and brainstorm with the referral partner as to how you might be able to help their clients. In fact, one of the best tools you can use to do this is Mortgage Coach Edge. And one of the things you can do, for instance, if you're talking to a financial planner, you've discovered that, what is their problem? Their problem is that their clients are afraid of the market. That could be one problem. What is the effect of this problem? It's causing them to not invest enough cash flow for their children's college expenses, or it's causing them to not invest enough for their retirement plan, and it's going to cause problems for the client down the road. And because it's going to cause problems for the client down the road, it's also going to cause a problem for the financial planner, because they can't grow their business unless their clients invest their money. And so an effective story that positions you as the expert is, I recently let's say you're talking to a financial planner who shared this challenge with you. You say something like this: well, I recently came across a similar situation with one of my clients. And you tell a story of how one of your clients was not able to prepare for their children's college expenses. They just sent their kids to college this year and got the tuition bill, and it was enormous, and they were struggling. And so we were able to use Mortgage Coach Edge to figure out how we can free up some cash flow for the client and get them into a situation where they are, have enough cash flow to invest for their children's college expenses, or enough cash flow to invest for their retirement plan. And then Edge becomes a part of your story. It becomes a part of the the presentation that you're giving to that financial planner, and you're saying, listen, I'd love to be able to strategize with your clients and to do an annual mortgage review with every one of your clients as a service to help alleviate their fear of the market. You see, that's the thing. You're tying it back to the problem that they said that they had. See, if you go into a financial planner's office with your guns blazing and say, listen, I'd like to help you, save your clients money on their mortgage, and I want a lot of referrals, well, that's not going to really go into their world and solve their problem. But if their problem is their clients are fearful of the market, their clients are not investing enough for their college expenses, now you tie in your strategy and you make it relevant to what they're going through in their world. And that's what Ken does with all the referral partners in his network. He says, Gibran, I don't have my own in-house mortgage company as a realtor because my clients can be better served by the other professionals in my market. And so I connect them. He said, I have a one-year concierge program where after somebody buys a home, I connect them with home improvement contractors and with financial planners and with home improvement specialists and with insurance companies that can help them settle into their new home. Because it's not just about selling the real estate, it's about helping this person buy the home of their dreams and settle into their home. And so I have a program where for 1 year after the closing I serve my clients. And if I had my own in-house mortgage company, I don't think I can provide the same level of service that some of my other partners are providing to my clients, and that's why I work with other professionals. And EDGE is what positions you as the one who can solve these challenges for realtors and financial planners in your market. And so once you send out the EDGE report to the financial planner's client or to the realtor's client, they get notified. You get notified when they view it, because that's how EDGE works. It notifies you once the person that you're sending the email to actually opens up the email. So now you can follow up with a phone call. You can use it to gauge their interest in what it is that you're sharing with them. And then it has a lead capture feature, which is very powerful, especially if you're using this with realtors, because you can capture leads with them and for them whenever they market their property. So again, it all goes back down to what problem are you solving for the referral partner. I mean, they don't need another mortgage guy or gal to send referrals to, but what they need is they need more leads. And so how are you providing more leads to them? Or what they need is a unique strategy to help their kids save for, help their clients save for their college expenses or their retirement plan. And that's what you provide by using EDGE to illustrate that. And then you can share your screen live with them and collaborate. And so it's all about staying focused on solving the problem for the strategic partner that you have, that you're in relationship with. And so again, the 3 secrets that all these top producers use are life balance, team building, and collaborative relationships. And so what I decided to do is I wanted to get these people together. I said, listen, what if you could talk one-on-one with other mortgage originators and other trusted advisors and share with them the secrets of your success? Would you be interested in doing that? And they said, sure, as a service to the industry, we'll come out. And so we created this thing called the Strategic Relationship Academy, where you're going to be coached for 90 days, and you're going to attend a 2-day live workshop that's conducted by these individuals. One-on-one FaceTime with Leon and with Diane and with Ken. You're going to be able to pick their brain and find out, what is it that they look for in a relationship? How do they run their business? How do they hire and train assistants? How do they manage their life in the middle of so much chaos, in the middle of so much volume? How do they handle life balance? And so that's why we created the Strategic Relationship Academy, to give you access, to give you exclusive access to these people. And it's an intimate gathering. There's only 30 people that are going to be participating in this academy. And I want you to be one of the 30 people, because I think that this could really impact your life. This is one of the most exciting projects I've ever worked on in my life, this academy that I've put together, because I know it can make an enormous impact in you and help you get to the highest level. I mean, if Ken can do it after going through cancer, if Diane can do it in the middle of the biggest refi boom in the country, in recent history, she has 80% of her volume is still purchase business, and she does $100 million in purchase volume. How does she do it, and what can we learn from, and how do we do that same thing? And Leon, the same thing. How does he go for 2 weeks on safari in Africa and still manage $400 million in volume? And so it's November 1st and 2nd in Atlanta, Georgia, and it's not just a 2-day event, because I got to tell you, I've been to 2-day events before. I know what they're like. I've been to 3-day events and 4-day events. We all get pumped up and motivated. We hear these excellent speakers, but then we go home and life hits us in the face and we can't implement anything. And so that's why we included 90 days of coaching with this event. So not only do you have exclusive access to these people, you're going to be one of 30 individuals at a live event with these people, but you're going to have 90 days of coaching where we do weekly coaching. We do 3 one-on-one sessions, and then the rest of it is group coaching calls where you're going to be one of 30 people on a coaching call, and we're going to help you implement the action plan that you create at the event, because the event is going to help you to create a life plan, a business plan, a strategic relationship plan. It's going to give you specific things to do when you get back home. You're going to have specific assignments, specific homeworks on who to reach out to, how to reach out to them, what to say, how to have the meeting. And then we're going to keep you accountable, that 90 days of coaching, to help you build your team, your in-house team, to help you build those strategic relationships that are going to elevate your business to the next level and create a much higher level of success for you, not only in your business but also in your life. And so what we've decided to do is bundle the Academy with Mortgage Coach Edge. For a limited time, just this week only, the normal price of the event is $29.95, not including Mortgage Coach. For those of you on today's call, if you sign up this week, the end of September is this week, and that's when the early bird pricing of $19.95 expires. Not only are we going to give you the special pricing, but we are going to pay for Mortgage Coach for you for 1 year. So you're going to get both Mortgage Coach and access to the Academy. The 2-day event and the 90 days of coaching is all included in the $19.95, and that's what we want to make available for you today. You can sign up at strategicrelationshipacademy.com, and I want to leave you with this thought. It was Tagore, that philosopher and poet, who said, everything comes to us that belongs to us if we just create the capacity to receive it. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to create more capacity in your life, in your business, to receive all the success that's waiting for you. And the next thing to do is to create that capacity, because if you don't have the capacity, you're not going to receive the success. If you don't create the capacity for life balance, for team building, for strategic relationships, you're not going to be able to achieve that in your business. We want you to achieve it. You want to achieve it. And that's why we want you to sign up at the strategicrelationshipacademy.com. And that's what I've got for you today. We've got about 10 or 15 minutes for Q&A. If you have any questions, any comments, I'd love to be able to take your questions and comments.
Well, thanks, Gibran, and as always, I think very powerful content that people can use to remind themselves of just the mindset we all have to be in to really be our best and to achieve our goals as originators in a very interesting time. So that being said, for everyone on the line, if you just click the Raise Your Hand button, so inside of the GoToMeeting software, it looks like a little hand. If you click it, let us know that you have your hand raised, and we will attempt to unmute you and let you talk to Gibran, ask Gibran a question directly. So we're going to start with Barbara Jackson. Barbara Jackson, you are unmuted, and you should be able to say hi to Gibran.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, Barbara.
Hi. I guess my biggest question is for people who are on the call like me who already are signed up and are using Edge as part of our everyday tools, what is the pricing like for us to attend the event?
The same pricing, but we'll pay for your renewal. So we'll pay for 1 year in addition to whatever you currently have going on.
Okay. All right. You gave a lot of great information, so I look forward to trying to see if that's something we can attend.
Sounds good. Thanks, Barbara.
Thanks.
So thanks again, Barbara. It looks like, Catherine, you'd like to ask a question, but unfortunately your telephone is not associated to your username. So you need to press pound and the number that's on the GoToMeeting screen to be able to raise your hand and for us to unmute you. So if you can take a look at that real quick, I'll see it turn green and I'll unmute you. Anybody else have any questions for Gibran? You can, of course, click the Raise Your Hand button, or you can type in a question in the Q&A section of the software. So Gibran, folks get together and they'll see if there's any additional questions. You know, when you think about the folks, I know some of the folks are already going to be attending this event. If you were going to say, you know, what's the #1 thing they could do to prepare to get the most out of the event, would you have any advice to provide?
I think the #1 thing to do would be to formulate your questions, because of the fact that you're going to have one-on-one interaction with people who are operating at the top of their industry. And if I had access to that, the #1 thing I would want to do to prepare is to find out what questions can I ask these individuals, what questions can I ask Ken, what questions can I ask Diane and Leon to discover, you know, how they can give me advice on what I'm going through in my business. And so that's the one thing you can do to prepare, is to ask, is to figure out what are the questions that would help you the most in your business, and be prepared to ask these individuals that question or those questions.
Well, good, Gibran. I think that's good insight to really come prepared with, you know, something they want to extrapolate. You know, Gibran, another thing that's coming up quite a number of times here in the Q&A is that you had mentioned in the beginning of the presentation that you'd be able to provide a link, I think, to these interviews or some material around these interviews. Is there some links that we can post, or was that really something you were providing at the event?
Yes, I'll provide those links in a follow-up email that goes out to everyone who attended today's call.
Great, excellent, excellent. And yeah, we'll make sure, guys, that Gibran gets that information ASAP about today's event, and you'll get it, I'm sure, in the near future. Any other questions or comments that the audience would like to ask, please go ahead and take an extra minute and type them. Now, I want to remind everybody here at Mortgage Coach, we bring a number of experts together very, very often. If you want to keep in touch to find out a little bit more about the events that we put on, or connect with other like-minded professionals, we have more than 3,000 fans of our Facebook page. Please join the movement at facebook.com/mortgagecoach. Again, facebook.com/mortgagecoach. Gibran, it doesn't look like there are too many additional questions. Let me just have a quick look one more time. We have a originator who just asked the question that they just moved to a brand new market. 12-year veteran, has been doing this a long time, but you know, coming into a completely new market can always be challenging. You have any insight you think to share for someone in that situation?
Sure. I would stay focused on relationships. That's the #1 key to success in this business. Is, you know, how do you, first step is to figure out who are the people that you want to work with. Who's your target audience? Are there CPAs, financial planners, realtors that are at the top of their game that you want to work with? And then you want to target those individuals to set up a meeting with these people and find out what are their challenges and how might you be able to solve those problems for them. And so don't focus on the lower producing agents. Don't focus on the lower producing people. Pick the people who are at the top of their game. And that's who you want to be with, because you want to become a top producer in that market that you just moved to. And so the best way to do that is to talk to those top producers in that market, find out what their challenges are, and then share with them how you can potentially solve their challenges and work with them. And that's what we're going to be focused on at the Academy. How do you have that conversation with these individuals and get them to the point where they want to work with you, where they're motivated to work with you, where it's not just a pleasant conversation. What we refer to a lot of times is this thing called the friend zone. A lot of referral partners a lot of times get relegated to this thing called the friend zone, where they're friendly with you. They might see you at a networking function. You say, hi, how are you? But then it doesn't go very much beyond that. And so we want to get into an intimate relationship with these people where we understand what their business consists of, and we're an integral part of making their business successful. Because it was Jerry Garcia, you know, that old rock legend, who once said, I don't want you to merely be considered the best of the best. It's not enough. Don't be considered the best of the best. I want you to be considered the only ones who do what you do. And that's my wish for everyone on today's call. I want you to be the only one in your market who does what you do, who solves that particular challenge in that particular way for a referral partner. And that's the number one thing you can do is discover. I mean, you can't solve a problem that doesn't exist. And you can't solve a problem for somebody who doesn't think they need you. So that's the first step, is to figure out what is their problem and how can you solve it. And the only way you're going to do that is to meet with them and to talk to them and to schedule the appointment. And we talk about how to do that at the Academy. We give you the scripts, the dialogue structure, everything you need to make that happen is located at the Academy.
Well, great, Gibran. I think that definitely answers that question. I think Catherine asked a question about the concierge service that you mentioned, or I believe really referring to that ongoing coaching. Any additional detail in brief that you could share with the community about that coaching?
Definitely. Two things. Ken Deleon has what's called a concierge program where he serves his clients for a year after their closing. And he's going to be sharing with you the template at the Academy of he has a person on his team that's called a concierge. And he's going to share what that person does, how they do it, how they provide these relationships to the clients after the closing, why it's important, and how that part of his business works. So that's something he's going to get into detail on at the event. But as far as the 90 days of coaching is concerned, that includes one session per month for 3 months with me, one-on-one, on the phone or via webcam as a coach to, to help keep you accountable to some of the plans that you develop at the event. Because at the event, you're going to develop a plan for what to do after the event. Who do you call in your market? How do you search for these people? What do you say when you get in front of them? How do you conduct a meeting? And I'm going to coach you through that after the event. So you're not going to be left on your own. You're going to have one-on-one coaching with me once a month for 3 months. Plus, you're going to have weekly group coaching calls where you can not only get my input, but the input of everyone else that was there at the event with you, and you can have a conversation. Because a lot of times the biggest value to attending an event like this is not necessarily hearing the speakers. While the speakers are fantastic, these are the best speakers for this particular topic that you're ever going to see, is the ones that we have at the event here. But one of the biggest benefits to you is going to be the interaction that you have with other originators who are in similar situations to yourself. I mean, you're going to meet people from Virginia and from Los Angeles and from all over the country who are coming down to Atlanta, and you're going to be meeting these people and networking with them. And after the event, there's 90 days of weekly coaching where you can interact with them on the phone and via webinar for 90 days to learn about what they're doing to implement the strategies after the event as well. And so we keep it very interactive.
Great, Gibran. Thanks so much. Well, we got a few more questions. But before we get to those, we do have a couple of questions for everyone here in the community that we definitely want you to post in the Facebook, if you would. If you are Mortgage Coach members and you have a great TCA, or you have a presentation that was really effective and impactful, we ask you to submit them to contests@mortgagecoach.com. Again, contests@mortgagecoach.com. We'd love to see what your best is, and we'll share them with Gibran. And as always, the organization here loves to give you feedback on the presentations. I know a number of questions came up about the open house flyer, or the seller buy down you mentioned, Gibran. So it'd be great to see some of the samples of what you guys are sending to realtors today, utilizing those tools. And of course get some insight from you, Gibran, on how we could make them align a little bit more with that message. So another question here, you really found some pretty interesting folks who have obviously created just some incredible results. Any feedback to people who are looking for those characters in their own local market? Ideas of how to find those folks?
Yeah, that definitely is something that we're going to be talking about at the Academy, because that's what our philosophy is. Our philosophy is that in order to be a top producer, you want to surround yourself with top producers. So we're going to be talking about how to find people like Ken and people like Diane and like Leon in your local market. And that's one of the big focus points of the event is how to find those relationships and create those relationships.
Great. Great, Gibran. Well, everybody, today's event, as all of our events, will be posted in the community. You can review them at mortgagecoach.com. I hope that you do take the opportunity to learn a little bit more about the interactive tools available by visiting mortgagecoach.com, and I expect that I will see quite a number of you at the event, the Strategic Relationship Academy. Again, strategicrelationshipacademy.com to register for Gibran's event, and I hope everybody finds the insight and activities as valuable as many of our members have over the many years, Gibran, that you've provided great content. So thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Gibran, turn it to you. Is there anything that you'd like to mention or add to the community?
Well, I just want to close by congratulating everyone for having a record few months and just leaving you with a word of wisdom, a word of caution. Let's leverage the success we've had this year into even more success in the months and years to come by creating systems in our business, by creating relationships that are going to help elevate and help us maintain the success that we've created this year so that we don't lose the touch. Because it's one thing to be successful, it's another thing entirely to remain successful, and that's what we want to help you do, not only now but also into 2013. And you say, well, Gibran, I don't have the time to come to this event. Well, let me tell you, I mean, if Ken can spare the time, he does $275 million in volume. If Diane can spare the time, she's got $100 million in annual volume. Leon can spare the time, he does $400 million in annual assets under management. If these people can spend the time to come to the event, you can spend the time to come to the event and learn from them. So they want to spend quality time with you, and it's just a matter of, are you ready? Are you ready to get to the next level in your business? We'd love to see you. Thank you, Joe, for having us. Thank you all for participating, and look forward to seeing you in Atlanta on November 1st and 2nd.
Thanks so much, Gibran. Thanks, everyone, for coming. We end today's event with a poll question, which you will note we're going to do in many of our upcoming events. We'd like to ask anyone who's still on the line if you have an iPhone. So here at Mortgage Coach, we're always innovating. A lot of our technologies, of course, are coming to the iPhone and the iPad and many of the new tablet devices that are coming to market. And we'd just like to know how many of you on this call today have an iPhone. So again, thanks, Gibran, for hosting a great event, and look forward to talking to all of you in the near future at a future event. Thanks again.